Welcome viewers, Dr. J.W. Ayub. Australia, how did politics make life this hard? When government failure becomes your personal debt. You did what Australians were told to do. You worked, paid tax, paid the mortgage and rent, paid electricity, registered the car, bought fuel, raised your family. Just sort this out. And somehow, despite earning more dollars than Australians earned decades ago, there seems to be less left. That's where the investigation begins in this episode. Not with whether Labor is worse than Liberal, not with another election promise, not with another problem that can be solved by another political party, but with a more uncomfortable question. How much of the Australian civilians' financial deterioration can actually be traced back through the Australian political architecture? Because financial pressure does not necessarily arrive through one catastrophic decision. It's politically generational. It accumulates. Housing policy affects property prices and rent. Population policy changes demand for housing and infrastructure. Energy policy flows through electricity, transport, manufacturing, and ultimately consumer prices. Taxation reduces disposable income. Government borrowing creates future obligations. Weak productivity restricts sustainable wage growth. Market concentration can weaken competitive pressure. Infrastructure shortages and negligences impose costs that households eventually absorb. And when something fails, government frequently responds with another intervention, another program, another subsidy, regulation, or expenditure. The original consequence doesn't necessarily disappear. Another layer is just added. What's that do? That creates the cycle. Policy, consequence, government response, new intervention, new consequence, ordinary Australians pay. I want to say that again. Policy, consequence, government response, new intervention, new consequence, the ordinary Australian pays. This material repeatedly describes Australians confronting housing pressure, weak real income growth, household debt, infrastructure strain, energy costs that are constantly rising, and declining economic confidence simultaneously. So it's a accumulated financial assault manifesting on the population out of the Australian political architecture and the way it's engineered. Another source describes middle-aged Australians caught in what it's called economic quicksand. Put your hand up if you feel like you're in economic quicksand. Carrying mortgages, large rents, trying to support families, and wondering why greater debt produces less financial progress. That's why this series will investigate 8 pillars of civilian financial compression: housing, population, taxation and debt, energy, productivity and wages, corporate concentration, infrastructure, and accountability. But accountability is a pillar holding everything together, because that's what is lacking in politics today. Because if governments were warned, consequences were foreseeable, alternatives existed, damage accumulated, and the architecture continued anyway, which is what we're witnessing, then incompetence eventually becomes an inadequate explanation. It's just not a strong enough form of accountability. The investigation then reaches a question politicians rarely have to answer. When does repeated political carelessness become political architectural moral bankruptcy? I'm going to say that again. When does repeated political carelessness become political architectural moral bankruptcy? And viewers, and beyond that lies an even hardened question. If Australians can demonstrate that government decisions imposed in identifiable and avoidable losses upon them, is acknowledgement enough, or does accountability eventually require compensation for the citizens of Australia because of what the political architecture has done to them? We'll find that out in the next episode. I'll see you then.